Hi guys, thanks for tuning in again today. You're watching In Deep on the Delta. This is the weekly Delta fishing report for the week of December 2nd. And just a general rule, this last week the striper bite has held pretty well. The largemouth bass bite has been tough. Start off with water conditions. And one thing that's staying pretty stable right now is the water temperature, and it's holding right around 55 degrees. It may be a degree or two higher where you're fishing, or a degree or two lower, but right around 55 degrees. And I don't expect that to change too much in the next week or so. What is changing is the water clarity, and it can go from anywhere from 1 or 2 feet to 10 feet. I know out at Rio Vista they're reporting it's pretty darn cloudy, 1 to 2 feet. I was up in White Slough a couple days ago and I had 8 to 10 feet. Last week I was out in, I'll say, the central south delta, and it's probably 2 to 3 feet. I know the channel is, it's almost day to day. There has been a dredge that has been moving from, let's just say, Light 56 area, Prisoners Point, down towards the head of the channel. I know last week it passed the mouth of Disappointment Slough, and they are heading down towards Lads or the head of the Stockton port down that way. I don't know how far they're going, but I think that has had something to do with the clarity in the main channel, because when they're dredging up, obviously they're getting a lot of mud and stuff that's rolling around. So water clarity is really been a factor, and it just really depends on where you are the day that you're out there and what you're fishing for. Let's talk about stripers. We'll start off with Haps Bait, and they're reporting that the bite is holding pretty good. And remember, Haps is a bait shop, and they sell a lot of mud suckers, a lot of live bait, a lot of bait. Their clients are still catching fish, not in the numbers that they were a couple weeks ago, but still on a fairly solid bite. And what they're saying, not as many big fish. The fish are a little bit smaller, generally averaging about 18 to 25 inches. Mud suckers are the bait of choice, and the area that a lot of their customers are fishing is the area down around Decker Island. Always fish down there. If you guys are not real familiar with the Delta, you get out once or twice a month. If I was going to be fishing for stripers and I didn't have a spot or didn't want to run around a whole lot, I would go to Haps Bait, get some live mud suckers, go down by Decker Island, between Rio Vista Bridge and Decker Island, sit out there and bait fish. Even if you find slow fishing out here right now, the weather's beautiful. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning right now. The sun has generally been popping out. Mornings are cool, a little fog, but after about 9-10 o'clock, it's absolutely beautiful. There's geese all over out here. You can hear them cackling all day long, and it's a good time to be on the Delta, even though you may not be catching a ton of fish. So anyhow, that's the Rio Vista area. I did talk to Jeff Suhu. Jeff is moving around a lot, and he's a good fisherman. He's still catching fish, but he's really working for him. Working for the fish that he's catching. And I talked to Jeff about how much he's moving. He says, well, I'm moving around trying to find fish. And I said, well, how much are you moving? So Jeff said last week he went out twice. He looked at his mile log on his graph. He went 94 miles in 2 days. So he's moving around 45 miles a day, checking his spots, to find fish that are biting. So that gives you a little clue how hard Jeff is working to find the fish. And I know Jeff has also been fishing bait. So I guess the bottom line is fish bait, especially in the cloudy water. Maybe find where the fish are, throw your bait out, let the fish come to your bait. That's all I can say about the stripers. Let's get into the largemouth bass report, and I will also add to river conditions. We talked about 55 degree water, and the clarity is all over the board from 2 to 10 feet. What we're going to see in the next 10 days are some really good tidal coefficients. We're going to have good tides. We're going to have moving water. The solar tables are really good. We're going to have some really good moon phases, and we're going to have steady atmospheric conditions. It's going to be about 65 degrees, for the next 7 to 10 days, I think. So everything's going to be really steady. And I think if we can get a little bit of breeze or any little bit of cloud cover, the largemouth bass may pick up a little bit. Now, this is what I'm finding in my fishing. I've been all around. I haven't done real well in any particular clarity of water. But I think I was out Tuesday. I was up north a little bit around White Slough area, and I was getting about 8 or 10 feet of clarity, and I was able to see down in the water, and I got on a couple of banks that I knew from past history that generally hold fish this time of year, and I started really focusing visually on what was down there, and I started seeing fish, and I started seeing a lot of fish. So what I did was I stayed in those areas just to see what the pattern was on those fish, and I can tell you the pattern was they were moving around a lot. They weren't biting very well, but I really spent way too much time fishing for those visual fish, and I caught quite a few fish. I didn't get any big fish. This is what I found. The fish are starting to pod up more. I'll say a mile of bank that I would cut through, I saw probably 50, 75 fish. If I'm visually seeing that many, I'm guaranteeing you there's probably 10 times more fish than what I'm seeing. When I saw 1 or 2 fish just moving, super finicky, not looking at anything. When I got to a point in the bank where I saw a pod of fish, and I say a pod, maybe 3 or 4 fish, that's when I could find biters. And when I found 1 biter, I found, a couple, sometimes 3 biters. Not big fish, and we're talking fish from 10 to about 15 inches. I think I caught, I don't know, I'll say I caught 20 fish that day, and I wound up with 4 keepers. Keepers meaning 13 to 15 inches, nothing big, but I was happy to get those. What I also found, the fish, because of the clarity, I had to make super long cast. The other thing was, on that particular day, they didn't want anything moving. Everything I caught fish on was just a slow, dead stick worm, just moving it as slow as I could. So the keys for me on that day was just put down the reaction baits, pick up the worms, slow it down, and make super long cast, and work very slowly and methodically down a bank. I was fishing very heavy vegetation, but anywhere where there was a lane that they can get down in and move through those lanes, or anywhere where there was a hard spot on the bottom where they could congregate, that's where the fish were. So what I did was I checked that bank out, and I went down about a mile, and I visually marked 3 or 4 spots, lanes or soft spots in the bottom, and I knew from the bank land markers right where those spots are. Now when I came back and refished them, that's right where I caught the fish. So what that's telling me is the fish are moving up and down the banks, but they're really holding in certain areas. So if you're going out this weekend, you get a little breeze, don't be afraid to go up and fish some clear water. But be aware, if there's no breeze, that those fish in that clear water are going to be really difficult to catch. You may want to stay out closer to the channel where you get some stained water. There are days when they will chase baits, but I would suggest if you're going out, make sure you have 2 sets of baits. 1 set of bait that is moving baits, reaction baits, 1 set of baits that is dead sticking, and go back and forth between those 2 sets until you find what the fish are wanting to do on that day. If you're sick and tired of the Delta, I can tell you that I haven't been getting great reports out of anywhere, including Berryessa, the mother lode. I haven't talked to anybody up in Clear Lake. I'll talk to those guys next week. But Berryessa, Comanche, and Maloney's, it's been pretty slow. I mean, they're catching fish up there. The good thing about those lakes is they have spotted bass in them. So if you're down here and you're really getting frustrated, I would say head up to those lakes, try to pick up a spotted bass or 2, get a little confidence going, then come back to the Delta and try that. So with that, hopefully you guys are enjoying the holidays. I've got a couple of videos coming up that I hope to have out maybe next week, the next couple weeks, and it's going to be talking about dealing with this clear water situation out here. And I really think one of the things that I started thinking about last year, and I'm thinking about even more and more early winter this year, the Delta is always going to be a power fishery, but as it comes on to winter here and we get colder water temperatures and this clear water, we're going to have to start developing some finesse tactics here on the Delta. And finesse tactics, I'm not talking about shaky heads and things finessing up at Berryessa or Maloney's. delta finesse, and we're going to really have to learn how to deal with this submerged vegetation, because the last few years, that's where the fish are. They're harder to catch. We just have to figure out some new techniques to get down there and finesse these fish, and that's what I'm going to be doing a lot this year. I know last year people were catching them on Ned rigs and things like that. We just have to open up our box of tricks and find out how to catch these fish, and if I do it, I'll definitely share it with you guys. If you guys find a way to catch these fish and you don't mind sharing it, let me know, and we'll get the word out so everybody can have a little fun out here. So last but not least, I want to thank all you guys for watching the D. Thomas interview that I did, and I really want to thank you guys that sent in comments, all the great comments about D, and I want to let you guys know that I'll make sure to talk to D, and maybe I'll stop by and make sure that he sees all of the people that, you know, still care about his legacy and are interested in what he's done for the sport. I know he's getting up in age, and he's still active, and you know, he'll be glad to hear that you guys are still interested in the history of bass fishing. So thank you guys for watching that report. Thanks for listening to that interview. Thank you for watching my report this week, and we'll see you guys next week. Until then, good luck, and I'll see you on the water.